working on that, so just to let you know that. Okay. So thank you for everyone being here. I'm Batuan. I'm one of the managers at the Startup Club. I'm going to be your host today. I can start by giving a bit introduction about the Startup Club and talk about pitching companies and introduce advisory panel, and we can get going with the pitches. So the Startup Club is global entrepreneur community connecting startups with investors and other stakeholders through series of pitch nights and investment conferences like this. We've been doing this more than 3 years, and since 2019, and just last year we organized over 50 events. Hundreds of startups participated in it, and dozens of them got funded after our conferences. We also provide various services such as business evaluation, social media plan, pitch deck design, private investor call. So if any of you might be interested in it, you can check our website. Then you can connect with us. We're happy to have this conversation with you. And today we will have 5 great companies lined up to introduce their business. Each of them will do 7 minutes pitch, that followed by 15 minutes feedback and Q&A from the advisory panel. And we will also have some questions from the audience. And obviously, everyone feel free to use the chat to introduce yourself, your business, share the link to your LinkedIn profile, make a comment about startups, ask questions. We want all of you to be engaged, interact with us. So we have Screevo. Screevo is the voice-powered automation platform that allows voice control creation on any software system without any integration required. Then we have Big Blue People, a trustworthy marketplace where people can offer or hire service through a platform. Then we have ONEKEY. ONEKEY is leading European platform for automated security and complaints analysis for industrial manufacturing and Internet of Things. And we have Urban Data Collective. They provide solutions to facilitate the sharing of real-time urban data to solve many of our urban challenges that we face today. And finally, we have NLC, the European Healthtech Venture Builder. They will be presenting their latest fund called Elithia BioTech Fund. This is the new innovative concept from NLC focused on early science investments. Yep, and we have 4 advisors from Plug and Play Tech Center, Rockstart, 11 Ventures, and First Bridge. And I will let them introduce themselves. But before we start, actually, I have a short announcement. Unfortunately, Michelle from Plug and Play Tech Center is not feeling very well and is not able to join. But luckily, Carlota Bento, his colleague from Plug and Play Tech Center, will be there instead. She was so kind to join upon our last minute request. Carlota, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks for the introduction. Yes, I work at Plug and Play Ventures. We are an early stage VC headquartered in Silicon Valley. We invest in pre-seed to Series A startups globally. We are quite active in terms of investments. We make more than 200 investments a year and count with more than 30 unicorns in our portfolio. And a bit of background around myself. I've been at Plug and Play for almost a year now and have a background in open innovation and in connecting corporates to startups, which is also what we do at Plug and Play. Very happy to be here and looking forward to hearing about the pitches.
Great. Thank you so much for a great introduction, Carlota. And we have John Fredericks from Rockstart. John, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So my name is Jan Fredericks, and I am, next to my corporate job, also an investor at Rockstart. Just to give you a bit of background, Rockstart is an accelerator VC, and we're on a mission to empower, let's say, the founders to drive positive change across 3 domains: energy, agri-food, and emerging technologies. We have offices in Amsterdam, Copenhagen, and Bogota. We invest in seed stage startups, provide startups with access to capital, market, and expertise to connect them to founders, co-investors, mentors, partners, and the wider Rockstart network. I would like to point out that in 2021, we announced the final closing of the Agri Fund at 22 million, which has now 33 startups in it, and the Energy Fund this year with 27 million, 19 investments were made, and currently we have 260 startups in the portfolio, and our alumni value is about 1 billion.
Great. Thank you, Jan, for the introduction. Then we have Yargana Stoichkova, I hope I pronounced your surname correctly, from 11 Ventures.
It's
Please
perfect.
introduce yourself.
Thanks very much. Hi, everyone. So I am part of 11 Ventures. We are a pre-seed and seed fund based in Bulgaria, but we have been investing throughout the region of Southeast Europe for the past 10 years. Actually, we were one of the first funds that started here, and we have over 150 investments to date, including the first Bulgarian unicorn, which we backed very early on. We invest out of our third fund now, which is 60 million euros. And we focus on 4 main verticals, which are health, fintech, future of food, and future of work. In terms of tickets, we typically invest between 250 to 1 million. And with the third fund, we also look into broader Europe, not only Southeast Europe. So that's about us.
Great, thank you, Yargana. And finally, we have Rohan Bansal from First Bridge. Rohan, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Pleasure to meet you. So I work for a fund called First Bridge. So we invest in Series A and onwards. The reason why we call it First Bridge is because we provide a bridge between Europe and Asia. So the way we do this is by helping startups that are looking to gain access to the Chinese and Southeast Asia market in different forms. It could be perhaps setting up a manufacturing team or distribution network to start selling in China, or, and this has become increasingly popular, getting Chinese tech to be plugged, Chinese or South Asian tech to be plugged into European startups so that they can grow at a faster rate, or perhaps get access to AI or automation tools that don't exist or not so detailed in Europe. So we're a French VC. Our ticket sizes are between 1 million to 10 million. And we focus on a few key sectors such as logistics, fintech, smart cities, and e-commerce. We currently have 6 companies in the portfolio, and we are actively looking to gain access to new and exciting businesses. So I'm very happy to have this call and learn more about the startups that are presenting today.
Thanks so much, Rohan. So we can start with our first page. First company we'll be pitching is Screevo. Presentation will be done by Domenico, CEO of Screevo. Domenico, please feel free to share your screen and start your presentation. And let me check. Okay.
Yes, I need to be able. Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Fine? Cool.
Yes. Okay, now you can share your screen.
Okay, let's try once again. Okay, perfect. Good. So, hi everyone, my name is Domenico Crescenzo. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Screevo. Screevo is the first enterprise voice-powered automation platform that allows to create voice controls on any software system. Without direct integration, this is super important. We started from a very simple observation that in the consumer space, we observed smart speakers making digital transaction possible with voice without actual typing on keyboards or smart screens. While in the corporate world and in the business world, we see that there are software systems that are extremely complex and that take a lot of time for workers to learn the system and to insert data into those systems. Actually, McKinsey tells us that the time spent by every worker on software system can be huge, up to 800 hours per year, which means that more than 3 hours per day are spent by workers on software system. Now imagine, for example, a maintenance technician that has to insert data or fill in a report after he has fixed an asset, or a production line operator that has to basically report how many pieces he has produced in the previous shift. This is all data entry that needs to be done, and that takes time. And every minute spent on software is a minute loss of productivity. So we focused on 3 core needs that are the importance of having workers' hands free from typing, free from keyboards, workers' eyes free from screen, because you don't always need a screen for digital interaction, and finally give everyone the possibility to collect data and interact with software without interrupting their core activities. In order to do so, we created Screevo. So as I said, Screevo is a platform that allows to create voice assistant to control third-party software. And this is super important because we are using a combination of robotic process automation, RPA, and speech technology. This is why we call our platform voice-powered automation, because we make screen automations powered by voice. And this allows us to control every software like SAP, Excel, web-based, IBM Maximo, any software without direct integration, because we're using RPA, but powered with voice. So at the end of the day, the worker can listen to instructions, so he's guided through the activity, and every time he has to give a feedback, it simply speaks. The application can run on premise, and I will let you know more about our customers and use cases implemented so far. Regarding the speech-to-text algorithm, which is the core of the platform, today we support more than 20 languages. Very important is that the speech-to-text can be trained on specific words. Let's assume that we have a word that is specific to a certain corporate. We can train the algorithm on that. And in order to do so, we established partnership with several universities. We are in Italy, even though the Screevo is an incorporation in Delaware. We have 2 universities in Italy, 1 in the Netherlands and 1 in the US that are helping us in keep building those models. It's very resistant to noise environment. And finally, the latency is very low. And this is very low because we are not using cloud services, but we convert the speech into text right on the device, on the edge, which means that over the network, only text is exchanged and not audios, which makes everything lighter and faster. If you think about corporates, basically almost every company has at least one operation department that has to do a lot of data entry. So the market opportunity is huge, and we started focusing on manufacturing space because this is where I come from. I've been working for corporate manufacturers like Johnson & Johnson and Scania, but also technical services, healthcare. Try to imagine a nurse or a doctor that has to fill in a report. They have to do that several times a day, and it takes a lot of time. What if they could spend more time with patients and less time in data entry? And finally, utilities as well. So the market opportunity is huge. We started from the manufacturing because it's the market that we know best. We offer a subscription model. Usually we need to configure initially the project, which takes a few days. And from there, we have a subscription model from 15K per year onwards that really depend on the number of users using the application and the number of applications that we build voice on top. The time needed for each implementation, it's roughly 15 days. It goes really from 5 to 20, but on average, it's 15 days of implementation, in which with our customer, we actually perform an interview to understand what the voice assistant has to ask, record the screen to implement the RPA layer and automation, configure, install, and go live. So it's very, very standard. We are a team of 10 people today, where myself and Graziella work mainly in the business development and marketing, and Nicola, our Chief Technology Officer, he is an expert in robotic process automation and is leading a team with competencies in voice technology and, of course, in infrastructure and security, because this is what is super important for our corporates. We started slightly more than a year ago, and to date, many customers fell in love with our solution. So today we have as customer Philip Morris, Takeda, Johnson & Johnson, Bosch, Leonardo, Antares Vision, AbbVie, Marangoni, and those are just a few names of the most important customers. And today, most of them are in the POC stage, so it's early revenue, but it's already a market proof that we really scouted a need that was definitely underserved. And we project a recurring revenue next year of 1 million plus, considering only those customers that we activated paid POCs with, but we have many more in the pipeline. For example, we're speaking about Tetra Pak, Barilla, and many others. We have more than 100 deals in our pipeline. Regarding the product roadmap, you have seen that today we need a configuration time of approximately 15 days, but we are working actively on a platform in such a way that our customers can be, since they are enterprises, they can be autonomous in building their own voice process automation. That's the goal. So I want to sell only licenses and training packages in such a way that they can be autonomous in updating scripts and creating their voice assistants. This will boost our revenues. And then now try to imagine about the Alexa-enabled device in the consumer space. What we could do is also build the Screevo-enabled devices for industrial applications. And this means not only devices, but also software. For example, we had a discussion with HubSpot, the famous CRM tool, and they were asking us to implement a voice assistant for their platform, which we are discussing those days. And it is super interesting because basically we could offer the voice kit for them in order to be able to fill in CRM reports with voice. And this will further boost our revenues. Right now, we open a round of 2.5 million, which would be mainly spent in the platform development and speech technology improvement, because there is still work to be done, even though the product is already live and works great, but we can never stop improving the product. And an effort in sales and marketing to realize the recurring revenue of next year and also increase the markets in Europe and in the United States, even though Ruan, I wouldn't mind also Asia, not bad. And so far we have 1.5 million soft committed, so the round is being built quite quickly, and I'm looking for other partners to join the round. I would like to close the presentation with this picture that is not industrial, is not enterprise, but reminds us of the importance of our vision, which is the value that hands can generate. And I want you to think how sad it is to spend time on a keyboard or on a software. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Domenico, for the great presentation. We can start by feedbacks right now. But just to let you know, actually, the regular pitch time is 7 minutes, but we can use either 10 minutes. But in this case, you will probably have less time to receive questions, feedback from the panel or the interest investors. We just let you know that for the next startups. Yeah. So Rohan, would you like to start by giving feedback or if you have any question? Yeah, you can now open your microphone. Yeah. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. I thought I had a problem for a second. I wasn't able to unmute. Great. First of all, very nice presentation. We actually had a company very similar to Screevo that we looked at a bit more late stage. We realized it's a very, very promising sector because it's kind of saving time from low value add tasks so that workers and everyone can work on higher end, and you can also reduce costs. One of the concerns that we had when we were looking at a similar startup was the fact that some of the voice controls, because we have a very diversified team, some of the accent they were not able to pick up. That was a key factor that we decided to not go with the company, was because of the issue that we're having based on translation and accent that people had. And also one of the concerns that we also had was personal data, because everything that's being said perhaps is being recorded or can be monitored. So that's also certain legal issues perhaps that you need to look into. Perhaps you probably are very well versed in this, but that's something that as you expand further out of your geographies and expand a new geography, that's something that would really start to become a concern. And I really think one of the biggest opportunities for this perhaps is in the manufacturing and logistics industry. I see the point of healthcare, but logistics, especially order management, could be very, very useful kit. I think it's a very promising sector, and I wish you the best of luck with your fundraising. So.
Thank you, Ron. If I can answer a little bit about the concerns regarding the privacy part, we are not recording any audio unless there is a specific training needed, which means that everything that the user says when the app is listening, because you can control when it's listening and when it's not, is converted into text right on the device. So we do not keep any audio, no biometric data. So this means that from a privacy point of view, yes, we record the text, but we don't have biometric data about the user. And that is very important. Regarding the accent, this is why we are investing so much in the speech technology, because today the algorithm that we have can be trained in a very easy way. And we train the algorithm on words and phonemes. For example, I'm Italian, I say London, maybe a British person would say London. It's different, the phoneme is different. So I need to catch it, and we actually train it right away based on my own pronunciation, which makes the whole model so much more reliable. But thank you, because it's a very important point.
Yeah, great. Rohan, do we have any question, or I will go on to the next advisor?
No, it was clear. I think, yeah, the way you talked about the accent makes a lot of sense. No questions. If I have any questions, I will connect and discuss later. So thanks for allaying the concerns that I had. So
thank you very much.
Thank you, Rohan. Carlota, would you like to give feedback?
Sure.
Ask any questions?
Well, first of all, congratulations. I think it's definitely a very interesting space, as Rohan was mentioning, and definitely a lot of opportunities. I had a question. Well, also I wanted to say that it's quite impressive that you're already working with large clients, as you're mentioning, more on a POC basis. But I wanted to ask you a bit more about about your pricing model. Because I understand that on a POC basis you're charging them a certain amount, but if you have kind of validated that the amount that you expect to charge clients is something that clients are willing to pay, and a bit like what's kind of the the underlying structure behind that pricing model.
Absolutely. So we thank you for your question. We are still experimenting, since we don't have licenses yet paid today. But we're proposing 600 euros per user, basically on a yearly basis, on average. And usually we don't get so much resistance on that, because when I go through the sales funnel, we actually have 3 stages. The first stage is, of course, the exploratory demo. Then we go into technical specification to understand the process. And at the 3rd meeting, when we actually present the offer, we present a business case as well attached. And the business case that we are usually presenting have an ROI of 3 to 5x at the 2nd year. So that helps a lot in overcoming the resistance. Because the ROI can be very, very high. It depends very much on the use case, but most of the time that is more or less where we are at, especially in the, as we were mentioning before, warehouse logistics use cases.
Right.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. No, I wanted to say thank you and best of luck on the round.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carlota. And we have one question from actually Milad from NLC to Domenico to Screeve. So he basically asked, for what type of activities do pharma companies use your product for?
Basically, we have been discussing a lot of use cases. The pharma companies right now are using it for business intelligence purposes. So they basically ask what was the overall equipment efficiency 2 weeks ago in that plant. But there are a lot of use cases that we are currently discussing, which are mainly around the cleaning of area. When you have to do the cleaning, basically your hands are wet and you have to perform a lot of checks and a lot of data entry as well. And it seems like a trivial problem, but it's super important from a regulation point of view. So now we are studying around this because it's a more compliance application which requires Screevo to have a GXP. It's called the validation. So it's a compliance regulation that we have to fulfill. So now we're discussing that.
Okay, thank you.
Great answer. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So, Jan, would you like to add something?
Yeah, thanks. Good afternoon and thanks. It was a good presentation. I thought it was informative and sharp. Some questions from my side. First of all, with regard to the technology, speech to text, what I was wondering is it a patented technology? And if so, what geographies does it cover? Two, from a competition point of view, what and who are your competitors and how unique is your product in delivering? Three is I'm thinking of your sales approach, so your B2B sales approach. Can you tell something about that, especially your time from contact to contract? Thanks.
Absolutely. Okay, the Screevo is not patented technology. We've been working starting from open source projects and we kept improving the models with universities who are doing the research and we do the engineering. Actually, my plan for the coming future that we are still elaborating is to try to be the center of open source speech technology. I would love that from the scientific point of view. As a startup of 10 people, I don't think I can compete with 10 universities in the world, but I can compete on the engineering and I can make sure that brains, like smart people, brilliant people will come and use that part, because what I can do is making it very easy to train, very easy to deploy. So we are still elaborating around that, because again, I think I can compete on the engineering, on the science. Maybe I can be ahead for 3 months, but then some university, some brilliant mind will just overcome it. So I don't want to play in that ground. I want to be the real open source alternative from a scientific point of view to Alexa, Google, Microsoft, and so on. Regarding the competitors, basically we haven't seen in enterprise B2B voice plus RPA applications. So we haven't found a direct competitor from that point of view. There are people working in speech technology. There are people working in speech technology for enterprises, but not using robotic process automation, which means that most of the time they need to do integration directly with SAP, for example, or other manufacturing execution system and so on, which is super hard on the company and it's super hard for the IT, which usually has a lot of high resistance at the beginning. While for us, we only need a server and no IT engagement, which makes everything a lot easier and a lot faster. Regarding the time to contract, on average, I would say 4 months. But this is, to be fair, this is the contact to POC. So to POC contract, not the licensing. The licensing, I hope I will tell you in a couple of months, which is, I think, not too bad if we consider the kind of corporates we are talking to. We started from big corporates because it's initially was very expensive to develop the voice assistant. So I had to target those ones. But now with the platform and with our skills increasing, it's becoming lower and lower, because then the goal is to go, I'm not saying mass market, but to go to medium enterprises as well, to medium business as well, because that's where the real scalability is. And this is becoming also easier because I have these big brands behind my back.
Great, thank you, Domenico.
Thank you for
And
your
actually,
question.
also you answered Jan's question as well from the chat. So, Gargana, do you have something to add? Actually, we we're kind of behind the schedule. So, if you want to add something, you can add, or I can circle back to you as first speaker after second page. What do you prefer? If you have it.
I actually have just a quick question. It's a follow-up question on the sales strategy one. And the other questions were rather covered by the other colleagues. How do you approach your customers? Do you have internal sales team, or do you plan to use distributors? And also, what is the position internally into organization that you target? So who's the person that you're selling to?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. I have a person that is supporting me with the lead generation, and it's actually I'm training her to also become a sales rep, which was only me initially. So we start from identifying the right profile on Sales Navigator. Usually the people that we target are since we start in manufacturing, operations director and maintenance engineering directors. We try to target corporates, and then starting with cold email and cold messages, and also cold calling. And we participate at vertical events. This is how we started. And we are basically scheduling at least 5 demos a week. This is our target of scheduling demos. And I can say that the conversion is quite good. I would say that from demo to actual offer, it's almost a 30% conversion, which is not too bad, I think. And then we are also starting now to close partnership with system integrators, because I don't want to do the development and I don't want to do the project. We are a product company, and this is very clear to us. So we started doing the implementation for customers initially because it was very important to get the early customer feedback and to learn. But now that we are starting to find a pattern, I want to start delegating to system integrators the development, and system integrators are also on the local area, so they know the big corporates. The big corporates have trust in them, so they can also help us in scaling up the business, because that's, I think, in the long term, the only way to really build a huge company.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Domenico. Great presentation, and you answered all the questions clearly, perfect way. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Now we can get going with our second page. Big blue people that will be presented by Gustavo. Gustavo, please share your screen and start the presentation.
Hello, guys. I'm happy to be here. So first of all, can you hear me well?
Yes, perfect.
Great. So let me share the presentation, my screen. Great. So my name is Gustavo Buenelaf. I'm the founder and CEO of Blue People Hire Services Without Hassle. How everything started, I'm originally from a small town in Latin America called El Bolsón. It has around 50,000 inhabitants, but every time someone needs a service, they come to a Facebook profile and they say, a group, and they say, okay, I'm looking for a gas technician. And I tested myself. So I went there and I put, I'm looking for a gas technician, and I got 30 recommendations within a couple of hours. Clearly, this is a big problem, right? Why? Because from the client point of view, you want to have convenience and peace of mind when you're trying to hire. And also in terms of pricing, you want to see, okay, how much is this person going to charge me? But then you have also on the professional side, which is, how do I get visibility? How do I get clients? And this is another problem, how to get clients. And then myself, being from Argentina and having lived in 3 different countries in Europe, which is Ireland, Belgium, and Switzerland, I also had the same problem. Every time I came to a new country, I said, okay, how do I get someone to help me to install the lamps? Right. So we built a solution for this, which is a marketplace for services. It's a website-based solution, and also it's an application, iOS and Android. So we have this solution which fits in this way, right? First, in one place, you have all the professionals that are offering the services. then it makes it clear when you're trying to hire, okay, what is the pricing? On the other side, for being a marketplace for services, you have the professionals. So the professionals can make money, right? Offering services, they can make money, and they can also get more visibility, and they can use us as a marketing tool. When we look at globally, who are the current players? So we can see quite a few players. Thumbtack in the US, Urban Company mainly in India, and also in Dubai, Get Ninja in Brazil and Mexico. We are, and also TaskRabbit. I think you all know TaskRabbit. They are mainly targeting the North America and some countries in Europe. But we, BVP, we are targeting mainly LATAM. So we want to focus mainly on Get Ninja, but we wanted to share with you the main players. From a business model point of view, we have a transaction-based model, which is every time there is a successful transaction in the platform, which are 17% to the professional and 3% to the client. And we are also offering the SaaS model, which is a mixed model. So when someone wants to, let's say a professional, say, I don't want to pay the commission based on each successful transaction, then I can decide to pay a monthly fee, let's say $10 to have an average visibility. But if I want to have better visibility, I will pay $19.99. 1% of the revenue, we aim to donate it to an NGO, which is called Fundación C, which they are building student houses. And for me, this is a really personal cause, because when I was going to university, I managed to do it thanks to the fact that I was in the Navy and they provide accommodation. So this cause is a personal cause for me as well. When we look at competitive landscape, so if you look at this corner here, Big Blue People in this corner is the only one in LATAM targeting this corner, which is easy to scale and also empowering clients and professionals. How we empower clients? Clients can select the professional, without any restriction. They go to the platform and they choose the professional they like. And how we empower professionals or service providers, they can offer their services without any fee to be paid in advance. Our main competitor, which is Get Ninja in Brazil, any professional that wants to send a quotation, they need to pay in advance. And if I am a client, I cannot choose the professional. I just fill in a form what I need, and then I get different quotations. Based on a report, which is TechNavi report, the online on-demand home services market will do 10x in the next 5 years. We calculate a total addressable market of 1 billion in LATAM with a 70% CAGR growth in the next 5 years. What we have achieved until today. So I'm really happy to say that last month in June, we launched our new platform, which was based mainly on the learnings we have had in the last few years since we launched. We launched just prior to COVID. It was tough for us, but it allowed us to learn a lot about our users, to improve our user experience, to improve the onboarding process. Right now, we have 1,400 or so professional registered, active 613, and we have seen in the last 3 months around 200 quotation requests received, and our success rate, the average success rate, is increasing by 24% month over month in the last 3 months. So we are targeted to raise capital by August, and our pilot market is right now in Argentina, but we want to try Brazil, Colombia, and other markets. And our main target right now, it's home maintenance and beauty, which is massage. But then after we are strong in those verticals, we want to try other markets, other verticals. And the same long term, we would like to build a payment platform and a wallet solution in our solution. This project is being funded mainly by myself and also by a friend of mine, an Asian investor. She's in Texas. She contributed $90K. We're currently targeting 1 to 2 million seed round with a pre-money valuation of 12 million. Our main goal here is to build a strong commercial team in Argentina and also a marketing team and continue developing our product. The team, Satish is our product lead, and I have been working with Satish for the last 7 years. We used to work together when I was working in a company in Belgium, but he has worked mainly as a project manager building different applications plus 10. He also has been working in digital marketing and run different campaigns, marketing campaigns for other clients. Shivan he has been with us for the last 2.5 years or so. He's a computer engineer. He has also built plus 20 products for different clients, and he's always training new developers, and he has built, trained plus 50 developers in the last 7 years. Myself, I always like to split my career in three. I was 11 years in the Argentine Navy. Then I joined the corporate world, and I have worked for big companies like Microsoft, Pfizer, and Zoetis, ExxonMobil, and so on. And in the last 4 years, since I did my MBA, I decided I was passionate about being a tech entrepreneur. And that's why I'm here today speaking to you guys. So why us? Big Blue People team has proven we can deliver. We pivoted and launched our new technology based on the learnings we have had in the last few years. We did not give up during COVID, and we overcame many challenges. Now we are at a turning point, which I believe for an investor passionate about marketplaces is the best moment to join us. And almost on time.
Yeah, absolutely. A great job for presenting and for the timing. Thanks so much for that, Gustavo. I think it's very interesting. Gergana, would you like to start to give your feedback?
Sure. So thanks for the presentation. It was very well structured, and I answered many of my questions with it. So thanks for that. I have two main points of feedback and related questions. So one of them is in your business, it's very key to ensure the quality of the providers list on the platform. So how do you plan to do that? Do you screen them in any way? Do you have ratings? Generally, how do you deal with disappointments? And my other question is with regards to your competitors. If I understood correctly, you already have some competitors in Latin America active there. What wasn't clear for me from the presentation was, what do you mean by difficult to scale? Like, what are those companies, and how do you plan to take their market share as well?
Sure. Thank you, Gana, for your question. So scrutiny. So first of all, any person that wants to offer services in our platform, we ask for ID and proof of address, especially in LATAM, that people are always concerned who is coming to your home to do any work, right? Secondly, depending on the service they're providing. Let's say if they're a gas technician, they need a local license to be a gas technician. So we will ask for it, and then we will validate that's correct. Let's say, for example, a masseur. You may have a certificate that you did some training as a masseur, but you may not, or you might just have clients. So if you have a certificate, that's great. But we also ask you, okay, how can we see that you really are a masseur? So normally they can provide us, let's say, a social network like Instagram and so on. So then we can see, okay, this person clearly has client and so on. And the third point, I will say reputation, because after they have a few jobs, they will have a rating in our platform, and that's the way they can build a reputation. So when per law a license is required, we ask for it and we validate it. And if not, we validate the experience, either with, let's say if it's a cleaning lady, we can ask for recommendation. We actually ask for recommendation letters. Then the second question, which was about competitors, let me bring you here. I think it's easier. Yes, the main competitor is Cat Ninja in Brazil. And as they are a public company. They raised 85 million last year in May. And based on that, I can see many of their numbers. And I can tell you they have 4.1 million user registered, and only 207 of them are active, which is a 5% or so. Then doing some research, the main challenge they're having is, service providers are complaining because they need to pay in advance before sending a quotation. And they send the quotation, they might not get the job. So many of them pay for those credits. Those credits are not being used. And I believe that's our main differentiator with them. Why? Because first of all, professionals can join our platform for free, unless they decide to go for the paid model, which is you pay a flat fee and you are in the platform, but we don't take any part on any successful transaction that you may have. So it is for free. You can send a quotation for free. And also from the client point of view, they can come to the platform and select those professionals. They have better reviews, better reputation. We also have a badging system like Airbnb has, like a super host. Okay, we have super VVP. And then if they have a certificate, we also show a badge for certification. And that's how I believe we can compete with them. Then I have also spoken with different people in Brazil, potential investors and even users in Brazil. And what they like from us is this main differentiation, that you can go out to our platform and you can see the face of the person that is coming and you can choose that person. So I believe that's the main competitive advantage that we have compared to GetNinja. There are other players that we also put there, solvers, but they are only focusing on cleaning. And recently they started adding new categories. They've been last 10 years in the market. They raised capital, but I believe based on the numbers I have seen, even though they're not a public company, that the only strong competitor in Latam is GetNinja in Brazil, and they enter Mexico, but they're only with 2 verticals in Mexico right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Maybe I can go next. Thanks for the presentation. Just to kind of share some kind of insight and also ask a related question. Obviously, for these kind of platforms to be successful, customer experience is obviously very important. Making sure that the whole process results in a positive experience to ensure that customers will go back to the app in order to kind of request these kind of services again. So my question is maybe more on kind of on the app side. How do you plan to kind of make sure that both on the request side, but also when the service provider goes to the the person who requested it, has a good experience, and also if you have kind of a plan to offer customer support whenever there's an issue that kind of addresses this customer experience.
Thanks, Carlota. I think yes, UX it's key for success in a startup like us, and we did suffer when we launched our platform at the very beginning. We used to show each professional the way Airbnb offers their apartments, and that was a big problem for us. Clients were coming to the platform and they were not hiring, and that's when we did this huge change. Also, we brought to the team our UX lead, which is not with us anymore, but he stayed a bit more than a year. Prior to him being with us, he built an application for blind people. So he's been on the main newspapers and so on. So he helped us to build our new technology. And that's a new technology we just launched. And we are really, really happy and proud because the user experience is much better. And of course, we need to continue that, right? So we are raising capital. And at the moment, we don't have a full-time UX lead. But as soon as we raise capital, for us, that's a key area. UX, it's all about UX. And also from an operational point of view, we do have a few things that we want to implement, which is how do you ensure they come back? Okay, first of all, one of them is trust. And when a client comes to the platform, they're going to hire for a service. And how do they ensure that service will be provided with good quality and so on? So we want to offer an insurance on that. And that will give us a benefit. First, that the service is protected, but secondly, that the client does the transaction in the platform and not outside the platform. And we also have in our roadmap, let's say, a reward system for the professionals, because of course we have seen, service provider either underpricing, I would say, sending a lower price so they pay a lower commission, or trying to get the contact details of the person to skip the platform. So if we have a reward system, you build points, you build reputation, we can provide them, let's say, with like working clothes or tools. We need to do that so they want to do the transaction in the platform. They provide a great experience, and that way the client is also happy. And in both cases, we create a stickiness that we are looking for.
And maybe just to kind of fill up on my second question, for example, if it's the case that a user requests a service, but then there's, for whatever reason, there's an issue, or the person does not actually appear, or how do you plan to kind of handle these? Is it on your roadmap to include some support for users?
Yeah, perfect, Carlota. I think that's a great point. You did ask that question first, so I didn't answer it. So right now we have 3, I would say, students in the team in Argentina that are helping with the customer service. So we do have a continuous customer service, and like I always say, we do things that don't scale at the very beginning so that we can scale them. So the moment we are a bit manual in the sense, every time there is a quotation, we contact the client and say, you got, okay, just wait, you're gonna get the answer. Then we contact the client, sorry, the service provider. We also start looking for alternative B or C in case this person cannot do it. So this is a bit manual right now, but at the same time, we have in our roadmap a full integration of our CRM with our application. So all this communication that today we do it manually will be triggered by different events. So that's gonna, like, of course, improve communication. And then we need to be there. This is an operational solution. So we as a team needs to be there, provide the best customer service and support, because we have seen those issues, and that's how we tackle it today, a bit manual, but with a goal to automate that process in the future.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Carlota.
Carlota. John, do we have something to add?
Yeah, so thanks for the presentation. I have two questions, mainly on the supply side of the platform. So with regard to the workers, one of them is with regard to how do you ensure that the workers keep working for you, so that they actually, that you provide an attractive platform, that they like working for you, that they are part of your ecosystem. So how do you make sure it gets sticky for them and they actually want to keep working for you on your platform? That's question one. And question two is from a liability point of view. So which liabilities do you take on if they provide a poor service or a poor performance? Do you push everything to the service supplier, or do you take on something yourself? How do you cope with that? Thanks.
Thanks, Chance, for your question. You know, the stickiness that we always think, okay, what else can we do to avoid the professionals do transactions outside the platform and so on. So some of the things we do, we know and we believe it's really important to create a community. And some of those things that we can do is start, and again, it's in our roadmap, we are not providing yet, but we used to do at the very beginning, which is we used to provide trainings for them. Let's say we would hire someone to say, today you're gonna learn how to install air conditioners, for example, or to fix this. And then they will come to those classes because they want to learn. So we want to provide, let's say, like an academy for different trainings, which is not just on the actual service, but also on the customers, on the customer service they are providing, and also on a personal image, how they sell themselves, how we make sure they provide a great service when they go, they are punctual, they do the work they need to do, they organize everything when they leave and so on. So we believe if we, by building an academy, by training them in different areas, and every time they get, let's say, a training in place, they will get a badge or something, they will be proud of being part of it. And then by accumulating, this is the reward system, by accumulating points, and then say, okay, you accumulated point today, you get, let's say, a hat of BBP, and then you get, I don't know, like a shirt of BBP. So we need to have some things that they really want to be part of it, and they don't want to skip the platform. And the third one, I think this is the social part. I think as a platform, if we manage to communicate, which is what we want to do, that every transaction that we are doing, 1% of that revenue is going to an NGO for a social purpose, they may, and that's our goal, they may also like to be part of the platform because they believe they are contributing to a bigger cause. About the liability you mentioned, you know, I mentioned earlier the insurance. So, and I also talked to another insurance company, which is, okay, what about if something happens to them when they're moving from place A to place B? So this is kind of the moving liability. And the other one is, okay, liability about the service. We believe that we can hire, we can work with a company to provide an insurance on the service provided. And in the past, we tried, which is a really low fee. When the person is doing a job, there's a startup actually, they offer that service to us, but we didn't move ahead yet. Like they turn on the app, because another application is using that actually in Rappi in Latin America. They turn on the app, okay, I'm gonna do a job now. So they are covered for third-party liabilities in case something happened to them. So those are the areas we are looking into. But of course, doing any of this, the first one I believe we can take on once we have capital, and the second one we may be able to get the professionals to pay for it because it's liability for themselves. and we are just intermediating. So we want to make sure we provide a great service, but at the same time, we don't want to be liable for the actual job. Like Airbnb does, right? Airbnb offers you 1 million up for the house if something goes wrong, but I'm sure Airbnb hires someone else to provide for that.
Thanks. And perhaps one final question. Have you also thought of, let's say, partnering with the likes of IKEA, like TaskRabbit, to work with these companies and provide the services for their customers? So, for example, TaskRabbit works with IKEA, so customers of IKEA can deploy TaskRabbit for some of their services. Is that also something you're thinking of?
Yeah, I actually saw the case. I think, yeah, IKEA, I think they made a deal a few years back to get this agreement in place. We did think of it, and we actually been in conversation with a fund which is mainly focused in constructions, and there are, I didn't think of IKEA itself, and TaskRabbit is not, they are not in LATAM at all. But yeah, I think that could be a great competitive advantage because nobody's doing that right now in LATAM. But also we thought about these companies are providing tools for professionals, let's say, you know, Hammer and so on, that we can make an agreement with them with discounts for our users. But yeah, that's a great point. And I didn't think of it for IKEA in LATAM, but I think we should definitely look for equivalence in LATAM.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you, John. Actually, time is up for Big Blue people. Rohan, maybe I can circle back to you after the third page as the first speaker, if it's okay for you. Okay.
Thank you, thank you all.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Gustavo, for the great presentation. The next page will be done by John. John is the CEO of ONEKEY. John, please share your screen and start the presentation.
Okay, yeah, hello, welcome to the world. And my name is Jan Wendenborg. I'm currently located in Germany, in Düsseldorf, and where I'm talking to you. And I'm glad to present ONEKEY. ONEKEY is a deep tech startup. Yeah. We are doing IT, cybersecurity and the Internet of Things world, and I'm now sharing my screen. Hold on a second, please.
Absolutely.
So hopefully, do you see?
Yes, we can see it.
What kind of screen do you see? Do you see a large screen or do you see a smaller one?
And the large one, yeah.
I think it is something, I'm not sure if it is, yeah, it should be okay. Yeah, because it's something looks strange here on my window. Anyway, we help vendors and buyers secure their connected devices at scale. When I'm talking about connected devices, I'm talking about the Internet of Things. Yeah, so we are a B2B company. We are not a B2C company. Our services and our knowledge is provided to companies, to mid-size and larger companies. And when I'm talking about connected devices can be everything which is a computer. Yeah. So even the baby phone, even an autonomous car, medical devices, sonic sensors, robots on the shop floor, everything is a computer. Maybe it looks a little bit different than your Windows or your Mac on your desktop, but at the end of the day, it's a computer and it's connected, it can talk, it can be hacked, it has vulnerabilities. Yes, sir. And this is where we are coming in. We are a bunch of experts, highly skilled experts. We do that with passion, and we do that with a very deep passion on automation, as especially we are targeting larger companies, and larger companies love automation. What is the problem? The problem is the challenge that we have more than 40 billion devices in just a few years. Yes, so. And if you're looking to these, a vast amount of devices, then you can imagine that no mankind or no human is able to check that. Either it is not checked, or you have to automate it. Yeah. And this is especially true because a lot of cybersecurity professionals are missing, and there's only limited resources, time consuming, and it's very expensive. A man day of a cybersecurity costs easily $1,500 US, 2,000 or 3,000, up to their knowledge, up to their skill level. The demand is quite the opposite. The demand is that the companies want to have one of these fancy dashboards where everything is displayed in real time, something like, oh, my machines are well, something is going wrong, then there should be a red alert or a green light, everything is great. This is something that people love. So everything is talking to the incident management system and incident management team in real time. But basically, this isn't possible with humans, and that's why we are coming to the place with ONEKEY. ONEKEY is a scalable software as a service solution, which automates manual software analysis. And what a typical cyber professional is doing in 5 days, we can do in 30 minutes. We have a highly skilled team which developed this technology, and it's working very, very effectively. I will talk about later about that. It is highly scalable. I already mentioned that. We are also solving an upcoming problem of the industry throughout the world, that the industries, everyone wants to know, if you are buying a piece of software, currently you have no clue what's in there. If you are buying a network camera or something like that, you have no clue what's in there. If you're buying a robot, you have no clue what's in there. Yes, so what the technical term is the software bill of materials. It is a description what really is in that software. This is very intense work on a manual basis. We can do that on the fly using our platform and also monitoring the products over the whole product lifecycle. We do that by orchestrating a complex security stack, which is able to understand, which is taking the binary firmware. We do not need any source code. We do not need any network access. We do not need any access to the device itself. We just take a copy of the software which is running on the device, and we are deconstructing it. We are able to understand binary software, which is very hard to understand, but we can do it as we have some really high-skilled expert on developing these types of software. It is not a wish, it is already up and running, it is already real. How the typical target groups are, on the one hand, the device vendors who are developing these types of firmware, and we are integrating this platform directly in the development process. If a developer develops firmware, then he's doing his coding, he's checking in his code, and he instantly gets a feedback from our system if there are some bad components in there, if there are some known vulnerabilities in there, or some hard-coded passwords, for example, and so on. This is the vendor, the manufacturer side. The other one are the buyers. The buyers, if you just talked about it, if you're buying a network camera, if you're buying a robot on a shop floor or something, then you do not know what it's really in there. And this is something where we are upgrading the buyer's view, that they can look into the software they are buying, they are getting into their own organizations, or they are selling to their clients. And I also have showing a few examples. For example, Zyxel is a global company which are doing network attack storage, Wi-Fi routers, and so on. They are securing their software development by using our platform. They are scanning their software before they are sending out to their customer using our platform by an automated scan. Verbund, for example, is the largest critical infrastructure provider in Austria. They are scanning all their portfolio, their intelligent water pumps, their power grids, and all these stuff. And so to check if there are some hidden vulnerabilities, some hidden weaknesses in their infrastructure. Luisenthal is a very important company because they are printing our money. yeah, and at least in Germany. And they have some serious, intelligent and highly secure systems within the infrastructure. And Swisscom, for example, is doing a scan on all their customer premise environment products, which are Wi-Fi routers before they are sending it to their clients, for example. Yeah, so we are targeting basically the whole world. Yeah, our system is applicable in Philippines, in China, in US, in Switzerland, in Austria. We just won our first client in the United States, in California, and I just received this morning an order from also an international telecommunication company. So we are serving general industries with an increased need for security and compliance. Yeah, the typical Chinese baby phone company doesn't care about security, and because the buyer of a baby phone typically doesn't know about security and they don't care about security. That's why it is important to focus on industries which are caring, which have an awareness, and which are willing to pay. Yeah, so for the service we are doing, and especially infrastructure and these industries I already have mentioned are keen to improve, or they are obliged because of legal regulations to do so. We do that on a subscription-based model with an annual subscription. The professional license, which is the entry license, is a 16K euro per year, which allows some specific function and volume settings, and the target that we are developing everyone to enterprise licenses, which are something between the 50 and 150K a year. So we are the IoT security market is a huge market, and it's expanding fast.
Hey, John, by the way, yeah, sorry to interrupt, by the way, but we are now over 10, so if you...
Yes, that's my last slide, and thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
and thank you very much for the audience. Thank you.
No, you can like finish. If
it had been already finished. I think I don't have to talk in this audience about the size of an IoT security or IoT market. If there are some further questions on that, I am certainly able to answer that. Thank you so far.
Okay, perfect. Great. Thanks so much for great presentation. Rohan, would you like to start with your feedback?
Sure, love to. So first of all, I think this is a great sector because I believe that we as individuals are using more and more software and more tools. So the market is growing exponentially simply because of the fact that there's more devices and there's more points of risk and there's more cybersecurity threats. So that's definitely a market that's going to boom. So my first question was that maybe I missed it, but I don't remember seeing a business model. How do you guys generate revenues, and what exactly is the SaaS? Do you also have a hardware aspect as well, or is it just the software that you charge on a monthly basis, and who exactly are you charging it to?
We're charging, our charging model is subscription based. There have been one slide, but maybe it was too fast. It's an annual subscription-based license, which starts at the 15K per year. But the target is to develop most of our clients to an enterprise license, which is something between the 50 and 150K per year. This is from the revenue side. Yeah. From the technology side, it's a pure software thing. We do not do any hardware. Yeah. It is, and we have a software as a service platform, which is also able to be deployed within the data center of our clients as very large customers, as automotives, OEMs, and so on. They do not want to upload anything to externals.
Okay, that's very clear. Thank you.
And there's a question from the audience, actually, from Erwin. He says, do I understand correctly that your service will be able to protect IoT wireless traffic? Would you like to address that?
It's
John?
very hard to understand you, but
Oh, really? Okay. Question was, do I understand correctly that your service will be able to protect IoT wireless traffic? It's in the chat as well.
it is something. What we are
So
doing
your
is basically.
service, yeah.
Please,
Sorry, go.
can you please repeat?
Yeah, basically yours.
Hello?
He's asking. Can you hear me now?
No. It is something. There had been something like to be able to protect IoT wireless traffic. No, this might be a misunderstanding. So what we basically do when you have an IoT device, let's take a network camera. The network camera is basically a computer with an operating system and with some software on it. And this software we are taking to check if within this software some vulnerabilities or compliance violations when an enterprise customer is using these robot manufacturing machine or even in an autonomous car. Yeah, if you can imagine that the whole automotive industry is currently digitizing everything. Yeah, and especially in this area, they need to check if the software which is replacing the hardware is vulnerable or not. Yeah? And this is exactly what we are addressing, and what we are taking this binary image, checking it, doing a digital twin out of that, which is basically a mathematical representative of the firmware itself, and we are able to check this digital twin if there are vulnerabilities in there or not, which makes it very powerful to check a car or a machine while it is in production without touching the machine itself.
John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of in terms of, as we are here in the pitching investor round, what are the corner numbers in terms of traction and in terms of also financing? Yes, we're about doing a 500K in revenues this year. We are targeting 1.5 next year. We want to do a financing round of 3 million somewhere in the next 3 to 4 months. Yeah, and we are currently located in Germany and Austria and Hungary, but the company is based in Germany, Düsseldorf, where I currently talking from.
Thank you, John, for the further explanation. Carlota, would you like to continue with your comments?
Yeah. Thank you for your presentation. Definitely a very, very interesting space. Maybe I'd like to know a bit about kind of your next steps, after your round, kind of what's your roadmap, or which kind of milestones are you planning to hit, in the coming months and year?
Yes, thank you very much. The great question. I'm just returned from the world leading RSA security conference in San Francisco and the automotive conference in Detroit. The American market is much more dynamic than the European market in terms of technology adoption and so on. Secondly, the sales cycle in the enterprise space, also in US, is shorter because people are more open to try new things than in Europe. One of the elements we want to do, we want to increase and to want to accelerate our expansion and our footprint in US, as we have proven that in US, our customers are accepting our technology, and we have already a pipeline, even not being present in US, from US clients. And that's why we want to expand into the US on the one hand. Secondly, we would like to expand the technology to understand also more exotic industry-specific technologies, as we are currently focusing on Linux and the mainstream stuff.
Camo, you're on mute.
Yep. Okay. Over to you, Gergana.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to know how many clients do you have to date, and maybe you can share one more time on what, like you mentioned, mid-size corporates mainly, but maybe you can share what sort of industry your current clients are and in what markets.
Okay, in terms of market, as I tried to, I had also one slide is talking about the wording was industry with an increased need of security and compliance, which are typically manufacturing, automotive, aerospace, medical devices, critical infrastructure, and so on. Yeah, and telecommunication. And so, because they are all heavily regulated, these industries, they must comply to specific laws. Yeah, so, and Biden had issued just a few months ago a specific law to all critical infrastructures in US, yeah, that they must have a list, this software component list, when they are buying software. Yeah, so this is something which we are producing on the fly, and this is something which is enforcing such technologies in broader markets. Yeah, on the one hand, yeah, we have currently a 12 customers. Yeah, and a pipeline of another 150.
Thank you. I don't have more questions.
Thank you, Gergana. John Fredericks, do you have something to add?
Yeah. So thanks for the pitch. I really liked it, and I had to really think about what it is, what you're doing, because it really involves deep tech. So forgive me if I needed a bit of time for that. What I'm thinking of with regard to your solution is especially patents, because I think with what you provide, because it's so deep tech, I think it's relevant that you have the right patents or right patent financing in place. That's one. Two, with regard to the team, perhaps I missed it, but who are in your team? What kind of capabilities do you have, and how do you plan to grow? And three, last question with regard to competition. Who are you up against? I can imagine that this is quite a niche in that sense, but who is your competition? If you could say something about it. Thanks.
Okay, patent and skill first. This sometimes the patent has an advantage and disadvantage. The advantage of a patent is that you're getting a protection. The disadvantage is that you are telling people how you are doing things. You have to document it, you have to publish it. And so, and in the software space, there's often a way around, just a small way around patents. That's why software patents have their pros and cons on the one hand. Yeah, there's that you have a very broad patent like IBM, where you are hitting a key and then a character shows up on the monitor, yeah, which IBM had at that time. So I think the time of these broad patents do not apply anymore. Anyway, we have patents on the one hand, yeah, so, but we believe that patents are not the real force. The real force are skill, knowing it, doing it, and the ability to execute. Yeah, so on these deep space things. That's why we have a skill set. It leads to the second question. Yeah, we have a skill set which is rare, which is really rare. There are only a few companies in the world who are able to do what we are doing. Yeah, so yeah, and just to give you a glimpse that there had been. There's one competitor which has recently just bought by Microsoft, yeah, and another competitor which has been just bought by LG, yeah, which is a company, Cybellum. They had a 3 million in revenues. They had been bought by 240 million by LG. Yeah, so what we are talking here is this is the deep tech investment where the scalability on the one hand, and the ability to execute, to know it, these types of technologies is the real asset. Yeah? And this is something where you're typically going for strategic investments from strategic investors and also early stage investors like you are. Yeah, so, and this is where we are currently in terms of from the investment side. Yeah, so we need a little bit more investment to execute on the technology and also to show a little bit more traction, yeah, to be more visible also for the real big boys on the strategic end, yeah, and then going typically for a strategic sale. Yeah, this is something which is a typical technology, deep tech technology life cycle. And so, in terms of competition, yeah, I just mentioned one name. Yeah, there are only 5 companies in the world who are at least claiming what we are doing. Yeah, so yeah, 2 companies are fairly, yes, they can do something. Yeah, the others are more or less claiming it. And the last sentence about the niche market. Yeah, so yeah, it is something. It is from where we are coming. When you are able to understand binary IoT code, yeah, then you easily can enhance it. Yeah, not only analyzing the vulnerabilities, also fixing it. Yeah, so, and this is the next strategic move. Yeah, we will go to. Yeah. After having a majored analysis platform, yeah, which is already fairly majored, yeah, but we want to add some industry-specific things on that. Yeah, so, and then going for industry-specific fixes. Yeah, so, because the biggest problem is that the very big industries, they know that they have a problem, but they have no clue how to fix it. Yeah, so. And we are helping, we are doing the first step. We are telling them, okay, you have 100,000 devices in your factories, and we are telling you, here are the 500 devices you have to work on immediately now, because it's a highly vulnerable. So, yeah, if you have 100,000, you do not know which one is vulnerable, yeah, you are completely lost. So, yeah. And the second step is that we want to say not only, hey, this is a 500 you can work on. We have only a solution to mitigate the problem, to lower the risk. This is the next step also in terms of revenue.
Absolutely, John. Great. Thank you so much. Actually, I think we present the opportunity here in a great way.
Yeah.
And we can move actually to our last page. The next page. We have 2 more. One is Urban Data Collective, will be presented by Alex, and we will have NLC, Elithia BioTech Fund. Alex, you can.
Yes, hello. How are you?
Yeah.
Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, I think someone needs to unshare the screen before I can. Mine?
Yes, John, if you could unshare your screen. Stop sharing. Yep.
Thank you. So, do you see it all well?
Yes.
Okay, it's great to be here. Thanks so much. My name is Alex Gluhak. I'm CEO and founder of Urban Data Collective, a UK startup created early last year to accelerate the urban data economy. And our mission is to democratize access to real-time urban data so others can do great things with it. And by urban data, I mean data about people and traffic flows, use of energy and transport, air quality, river levels, and much more. Over the past decade, I worked with leading smart city initiatives in the UK and rest of Europe, with cities such as London, Helsinki, Porto, and Milano, introducing new urban data-driven solutions to address challenges they were facing. They would typically acquire cutting-edge solutions such as IoT sensors for classifying traffic, measuring air quality, or for charging of electric vehicles, each coming as standalone services. As they started to use the services, the cities very quickly realized that the benefits these services provide on their own are often limited. In order to make best use of them, it required data from the systems to be combined with other data or to be shared with stakeholders outside their service dashboards. However, solution vendors struggle to provide access to service data outside the standard dashboards and service agreements. And further complexity is added if such data is to be shared with outside third parties. This is a problem of a current customer, a UK local authority, who wants to improve the utilization of its public EV charging network. And charge points could be underutilized for a number of reasons. They could be broken, or they could be blocked by non-EV drivers, or they can be just deployed in the wrong places with low demand. And looking at a back office of a single charge point provider, it will only provide you a partial answer. So in order to really improve the utilization of these charge points and future rollout of this infrastructure, you need to combine data from multiple charge point providers as well as other systems. However, the problem is that making such data easily accessible and also into a usable form becomes an entire project of its own, involving significant staff time, additional supplier charges, and lengthy project setup delays. And this time-consuming project needs to be repeated for every new data-driven project. So our product, Urban Data Exchange, or UDX, is a software as a service platform for real-time data sharing, a Netflix-like marketplace that provides access to live streams of urban data from cities and organizations across the world. So organizations can manage and share their real-time data streams by plugging them into UDX. And data users, or urban data users, can discover urban data streams they need and subscribe to them. UDX provides many features that remove the hassle for managing and sharing real-time urban data. UDX, on one side, provides vendor-independent access to data streams, allowing organizations to access data and share it whenever they need it. Furthermore, UDX saves a lot of time and costs in running urban data-related projects. Organizations spend less time in data discovery, validation, and wrangling, and negotiating data sharing agreements. They spend less time, or they are able to access data that other organizations have, but they don't have and need, or to benefit from innovations others create on top of the data. And finally, organizations can also monetize their high-value data streams to recover some of their initial infrastructure investments. The smart cities technology and data economies are large markets which are expected to grow rapidly in the next 5 years. We'll first initially target UK and EU cities who are smart and have already started their digitalization journey. We expect 10 cities of more than 100,000 people to provide our next growth opportunity. We consider the effective management of public EV charge points as a primary use case to demonstrate the value of UDX to our customers. Over the next 5 to 8 years, such infrastructures are expected to grow rapidly in order to enable our transition to electric vehicles. Over time, UDX will enable other applications and provide even more benefits to our customers, helping them to meet environmental targets, net zero initiatives, and become more resilient. Our initial revenues come from software as a service subscriptions to our platform and setup fees for the onboarding of suitable data streams. Long-term income will be driven by revenue share models for data providers who want to monetize their data streams on UDX, plus additional data insight products. We've been already working for a year in 3 grant-funded pilots and have developed an initial product. We've got now 2 paying customers and now on track to have 200,000 revenue within a year's time. So our revenue forecast has significant growth potential if we become a market leader. Initially, we expect revenues mainly to come from software as a service subscription to our platform. Later on, marketplace transactions for premium data streams and data insight products will provide the next growth opportunity. There are obviously a number of competitors on the market who operate data sharing platforms and marketplaces. On the left, you can see organizations that narrowly focus on specific data types, while on the right are platforms supporting cross-sector data exchange. On the bottom, those supporting mainly exchange of static data sets, while on the top are platforms able to deal with real-time data. And our USP is to provide the right tools for the standards compliant sharing of real-time urban data streams for all types and classes of urban data. Our founders have significant experience, 35 years of combined in IoT and smart city technologies, and have worked at sector-leading companies. We've been recently joined by an experienced sales director who has been responsible for public sector business development at AWS. We are raising now a seed round of £250,000 for a runway of up to 24 months. Our business is SEIS eligible. We'll use these funds to achieve product market fit, increase our team to better support our customers, and ramp up sales and partnerships and validate new revenue streams. Within the next 2 years, we want to sign 20 cities and become UK market leader for optimizing the use of public EV charging infrastructure before raising another round, a Series A, to fund the rapid market expansion. Our exit is expected to be in 5 to 8 years' time from now, with a company acquisition to be the most likely option. There are a number of established players out there in the industry who might have an interest in our technology and market position. This includes data warehouse companies, cloud service providers, and IT service providers who serve public sector customers. Please join me in our exciting journey to rule the urban data economy. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alex. Great presentation.
And on time, so 7 minutes.
Yeah, it was great. Great timing. Carlota, would you like to give feedback?
Sure. Thank you. A very nice presentation and very well structured. Maybe I don't know if I missed it, or I'm not sure if you mentioned a bit about kind of you know, your traction or kind of your approach to sales. How are you going to target the different kind of stakeholders involved in this data sharing?
Yeah, so basically our current clients are mainly cities or local authorities and also urban infrastructure operators. And it's typically a B2B sale. So we initially target, so for instance, as customers, we have the Greater London Authority, Surrey County Council, which is a local council in the UK, or organizations such as Transport for West Midlands, which is like a local transport infrastructure operator or transportation service provider. And I think, so our process is mainly first following through my network and also the cities that I know that do things with smart cities and that already have real-time infrastructure on the ground. And it's typically engaging then with either project leads who deliver IoT on the ground, or CIOs in these organizations who are trying to implement a data strategy for the organizations. And yeah, so this is the approach to market currently. And then what we're trying to do as well is we're working with a network of cities called Open and Agile Smart Cities. It's 170 cities who want to harmonize data access and work across different standards. So this is also a network that we are leveraging in getting our product, which is aligned with those standards, in front of them.
Okay, thanks. Maybe just another question. As you showed a slide kind of showing a bit what the landscape looks like in terms of other players. And there was like a difference between like kind of sector agnostic and maybe more sector specific. Yeah. What do you think are the advantages of being sector agnostic as opposed to kind of specifying into kind of a specific sector?
That's a good question. I think in the end, what we've come across is that obviously cities start or organizations start with one type of system, maybe in basically better leveraging data around to solve some problem. But solving complex problems requires often data across different verticals and sectors to be combined. And this is where they start then needing to log in different platforms and trying to get data from this system and negotiate from other. So in the end, although those platforms aggregate some of the systems, it's still fragmented in the end, and the direction is fragmented. And I guess we are sector agnostic in the sense of we're focusing around all urban data. So things that cities and urban infrastructure operators need. So we believe that a one-stop shop approach will provide an advantage in future in there. And our idea is, as we start to work with different cities, they all bring their use cases and data streams on board and their platforms. Over time, we're creating a marketplace actually for such data, which will basically add to richness and attract also service innovators on top.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carlota. Gergana, would you like to continue?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for the presentation. Interesting project. So I have 2 questions. So one of them is maybe to help me understand better how the whole process works. So you mentioned that there is one type of organizations that sort of stream data and upload the data onto the platform. So what sort of organizations are those? How do you make sure you gather the whole picture? Yeah, that's the first question.
It's a fair question. I think just to give you an example, like from a customer that, or a couple of customers. So one is Surrey County Council, and they want to improve the utilization of the current charging infrastructure. They've got currently a couple of systems deployed from different providers of charging networks, basically. And they have logins and different types of backends that they are trying to get data out, but it's quite tricky for them to work with this data. Also, those backends just tell them a partial story. So for instance, if you want to know that a charge point is blocked by a car, but which is not charging, you need additional sensors on the ground, for instance, right? And so this is another type of system that they have to deal with, right? And what we help them is then we work with the vendors that they have selected on the ground and import or integrate their APIs into a common data sharing platform or hub. So they can start leveraging this data then using a common API and common data models and become productive very quickly. In this case, they're working with, in one case, like a consultant company that wants to use this data, or with a tool that we actually developed for them, right? So to give you an example, right? Yeah, and so what we actually do is we usually would provide a SaaS platform, and then we would integrate a certain number of data streams for them that we're charging them for as well. And then they can start using this platform and become more productive.
All right. And my second set of questions is with regards to your, let's say, sales process. So basically, selling to local authorities could be quite cumbersome. What is the average, let's say, time that it takes you to close a deal? How much time does it take to integrate a new customer? And how many customers could you add to the platform, let's say, per year?
Okay, so yeah, so it's a good question. So currently the sales cycle is between 3 to 6 months. Yeah, so local authorities are not the easiest customers to work, but once you have them, they stay with you for longer, right? So, then in order to onboard the clients, typically per data stream, it could be half a day or day. So what we usually do is, obviously, we customize a platform or a portal for the city, and then we would integrate specific data streams. And in some cases, we already have integrated those because another client was working with the same vendor. In other cases, we need to develop an adapter, but we've streamlined this process and it takes us quite little time to do so. And over the time, we're actually creating an adapter library that makes us easier to onboard future customers. And I think the last question that you had was around the number of sales, right? So in our current projection forecast, we expect in the next year to have 6 new clients and then 12 new clients in the year after, right? So 20 customers within 2 years' time, which is roughly like 600,000 of revenue by then. And we've got already like a pipeline of 25. So yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
And we have one question in the chat from Arthur. Any insurance players in your sales pipeline?
Sorry, any insurance players?
Yep.
Yeah, and not yet actually. We have some utility companies, which are water companies that want to onboard their live data from a water network and then start sharing it among each other. It's one use case. We've been talking to London Heathrow Airport through Ferrovial. These are more urban infrastructure operators, but no insurance companies yet. No. So it's urban data specific, but they might become later actually data users. So they might be interested in for risk management and other purposes on the data. But for this, we need to have a critical mass of data.
Yeah, so thank you, Alex. Rohan, would you like to continue?
Sure. I would love to. So 2 questions. My first question was, I see that you're looking really at EV and EV charging points. Is there any other particular sector that you're focusing on? Because I saw that your clients you had two clients and they were both public organizations. Is that a focus of going towards public, or you are also going to target private companies? And which verticals besides EV charging are you guys looking at?
Yeah, so EV charging is just a use case on top of anything of. So we had a project with the Department for Transport in UK around air quality and traffic. So live data about this. But in essence, the conversation that we had with London Heathrow is about them creating a digital twin of the airport, which is more a private sector client. And here is again ingesting real-time data from their facilities and those of their partners at the airport. And then expose this data then into a digital twin model that they are working with, right? So that's another example. And analogous, there are ports as another infrastructure where like data is flowing and is important for them as well. So yeah.
Okay, great. And my final question was, I saw that you had done an exit slide and you had mentioned that Baba could be a potential acquirer. Have you looked, I want to know what's the rationale behind that. And also, have you looked into the data privacy issue that China has with European ventures? Is that something that you have looked into?
Sorry, which one you said, which name?
Alibaba.
Okay, yeah, so basically, generally, I think any sort of cloud service player might have an interest in our play because obviously our service is cloud hosted and could provide an offering to their sort of public service sector dealings. A good point, actually. I haven't really thought about China, to be honest. It wouldn't be our first market. We are primarily targeting initially UK and Europe because also of my network that I have, but also open to the US market, which also has similar smart city initiatives on the go. So that's sort of where we're starting. But yeah, I think over time, we're still early stage. We are happy to go to other territories. I think the model that we want to do is through partnerships. So for instance, in the Netherlands, we're discussing now with a organization who provides IoT connectivity for a city and stands up some of the IoT use cases. And we can then, through them, sell into an existing client or customer an offering that brings data together actually across their deployments and enables them to reuse this data and realize more complex use cases on top, right? So, I'm also discussing a partnership model now with an IoT infrastructure provider in Scotland, for example, right? So that could be a way also to get faster to customers, and we're experimenting now with this sales side.
Great. Wish you the best of luck with your partnerships and hope they go well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. So there's another question from the audience, from Connor. He asked, can this data be used in GIS? Is it a focus at all? Geographic Information System.
Yeah. Yes, good question. So typically GIS data is sort of geographic and map-based data. And obviously the data sources that we collect, they have a geographic reference, and our tool obviously shows this already where the data sources are collecting data from to make sense of it. So yeah, definitely you can augment your GIS system with this real-time data then, or processed historic data. So yes, so it can basically provide an augmentation to this.
Okay, great, thank you. Yes, I guess time is up. We need to.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah. Final pitch.
Yeah, thanks so much. And
yeah, final comments. Something. Yeah.
Sorry.
We have final comments. Do you have something to add? If you have something to add, you can add, Alex.
Oh yeah, no, I just wanted to say, I'm happy to kind of connect afterwards and talk more about this opportunity. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Alex. Great presentation. And now we will go with our final pitch. NLC, the HealthTech European Venture Builder. They will present their new initiative, Elithia BioTech Fund. Will be presented by Ruben. So Ruben, please feel free to share your screen and introduce this opportunity.
Yes, so thank you, Batuan. Actually, I will present this
Okay.
you. Yeah, so it's great to be here. I understand it's been a long day for many of you. You have already listened to 4 great pitches, so I try to keep it as short and interesting as possible. So let me start by sharing my screen. And also let me start with this. So as we have seen also actually in the 4 past pitches, technology is a big driver of progress, right? So it not only determines how we progress, but also how fast we progress and develop as humanity. 10 years ago, it would have been unimaginable to basically see that we drive so many electric vehicles as we do now and have presentations of companies and solutions like Alex did before me. Even more unimaginable that we actually banned petrol and diesel engines altogether by 2035 in Europe. 2 years ago, it was also unimaginable to foresee that we actually have great vaccine technology developed to make sure that we survive one of the deadliest pandemics in the world. The 2 most innovative vaccines based on mRNA technology were developed by Moderna and BioNTech. And both companies are actually companies that was unheard of by the public before the pandemic. These 2 companies have also one thing and great thing in common. Their IP and technology is actually based on academic research and academic science. And that shows the potential that academic science actually has. So COVID aside, there are many, many, many diseases that are still in desperate need for treatments. Think of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, MS, COPD, all diseases that impact patients on a daily basis. At the same time, we also see an increase and a wave actually of academic science in these areas, which means that they have the potential to actually solve these diseases and treat them as such. But as you also probably know, academic science is not per se meant to develop drugs. Companies do, like I mentioned, like BioNTech and Moderna. So how do you actually translate that academic science, harness it, and turn them into thriving biotech companies? Well, I can tell you if it was easy, everyone was doing it. So there must be some challenges ahead, right? And there's actually not one challenge, but there are many. It creates what we call a translational gap between great ideas from the academia and prevents it from reaching the patient. It all starts with academics not being entrepreneurs by design and by definition. These are fundamental researchers, fundamental scientists that focus on the pure science because that's what they're valued for. They publish papers, they get research funding, and the circle goes on. At the same time, there is also a gap between what public funding is provided to these researchers and what life science investors usually and typically invest. So there is a gap of pre-seed funding. Also, academics, as I mentioned also before, are not drug developers. So usually they do want to transform their research, but they just don't know how. So how do you actually take your own research that you're doing and transform that into a drug program? Usually they don't know which steps to take to actually get there. And even if they want to, they lack the infrastructure, the lab equipment, the state-of-the-art environment that they need to actually perform those experiments. As you can see, these are actually very different kind of challenges, very different kind of problems. Each need a different solution and a specific solution. So I could ask you to invest in 4 different solutions of 4 different companies solving this translational gap. Or I can ask you to invest into Elithia, because Elithia is a design, a concept that we actually came up with that solves all these issues, all these challenges in one go. So we act as the entrepreneur. We make sure that we select the best projects out of the academia and turn them into drug programs. And at the same time, we have set up a pre-seed biotech fund that actually provides funding to these research programs that can progress them to a certain stage where other life science investors would invest. And to solve the drug development expertise problem, we actually have hired a dedicated R&D in-house team that is going to manage and lead those projects from day one, making sure that they progress in industry standards. On the other hand, we make sure that we have a network of service providers that actually have that state-of-the-art lab and state-of-the-art equipment to make sure that we actually can perform these experiments and create value out of those programs. And the result is basically that we create a pipeline of biotech companies based on transformative science. So as all with great things in the world, they need a great team to execute. And as you can imagine, being an all-integrative solution as Elithia is, we would not only need a very specialized team, but also a very diverse team with different areas of expertise, right? So we would need expertise in business development, in drug development, but also investment from biotech perspective and M&A. And actually, that is the team that we have gathered over time. The team that you see here, the value, the expertise, the quality, and the size make sure that we have the best chance to select the projects, but also lower the risk of development into these programs. So in summary, why should you invest into this fund? Well, to be honest, if I haven't convinced you yet of the brilliance of this solution, let me be very honest with you, because I imagine you're very smart investors, smart people in general. You have asked super smart questions in the pitches we have seen before. So you would want to make the right choice and deploy that capital in the right opportunity. And a good opportunity could obviously be a biotech venture or biotech ventures in general, because as you have seen, they create immense value, immense return, and immense impact. But as you can also imagine, it's a very daunting and a very complex ecosystem. It's a high risk, high reward game that we have learned to play over the past 7 years. So providing an investment opportunity into Elithia not only lowers your risk, but also increases the chance of return. And actually most importantly, it provides these patients that are in desperate needs with drugs that they need to transform their disease into treatments. Thank you very much.
Wow, great presentation, Malat. So who would like to start? I'm asking
Maybe
to
I can
advise.
go?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for the presentation. This is very, very interesting. So one thing I want to get clear is that you guys help build the ventures. So do you guys also build out the teams that go, and what is the selection process? Because I'm guessing you cannot manage the day-to-day operation of all the 22 companies that are the projects you've started. So how do you guys recruit, and is there certain skills you're looking for? Because it's a very big concern, I'm guessing, to make sure that the company is actually running smartly after you have generated the idea.
Yes. No, very good question. Yeah, it basically starts off with having the opportunity of sourcing between a lot of opportunities, right? And to select the best ones. And you can actually see this 22 projects / ventures as an internal pipeline that we manage internally. So basically, we don't hire teams yet for each project separately, but we manage them internally to make sure that it progresses first to a certain stage. And then when they're actually ready, they are turned into standalone biotech companies with standalone teams, which we also recruit. So usually NOC recruits the CEO, recruits other team members that are of value to that company at that time. But before we want to do that, we want to make sure that we have de-risked the project to a certain stage that we believe basically they're ready for follow-on investment.
Okay, great. And then another question that I had was, would this be considered as an investment into a fund of a fund? So then you first take your fees out, and then after that we get exactly how does the that structure work?
Yeah, maybe Ruben, our CFO and fund manager, can chip in on that.
Sure thing. Thanks, Rowan. Yes, it's structured as a fund, as you know them, as a traditional venture capital fund with a lower fee structure than most other funds that are around. So the management fee is 1.3%, and we take a 10% carried interest. So the fee structure is probably more favorable than the average in the market. But the structure as such is a fund structure indeed.
Okay, got it. This is very, very interesting, and wish you guys the best of luck with getting more funding.
Thank you.
So, Gabriana, would you like to add something?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have 2 questions. So first one is also something that I want to share as an observation from my experience. So in Bulgaria and Greece, we are close with a couple of R&D institutes. They're trying to do to incubate projects, and after they incubate them, to source teams. And one challenge that those R&D centers are usually facing is keeping the scientists in and keeping them engaged. within the project. So my first question would be, how do you tackle this, and if at all you have this challenge? And my second question is, how do you structure the cap table once you spin off the company as a separate entity?
Sure, thank you very much. I'll try to answer the first one, and then maybe the second one I'll pass on to Ruben. So it's a great point, because actually the involvement of a scientist is key to the success of each of these projects, right? So we require actually, so it's a very hard requirement that we set for each project that the scientist is involved. And this can mean many things. It can be an advisory role that the scientist takes into the project and the company. This could be that they take a CSO or CTO role from day one or later on into the development. But the key aspect is that we try to let them basically focus on the science while we focus on the drug development. So how do we keep them engaged? Well, this also can have different forms. So usually we actually try to contract them for let's say half a day or a day a week next to their academic credentials and activities to make sure that they're involved. And sometimes we actually try to motivate them and incentivize them by, for example, giving equity or any other form of remuneration that basically makes them a stakeholder into this adventure, and also obviously make sure they have an upside later on. So there are different ways to engage them, but usually most of the scientists are actually very passionate. As I mentioned, most of them actually want to do this, right? But just don't know how. And once they see basically that we provide the how, they're usually very easy to go along and stay involved.
Maybe to add to Milad's point, and also to get back to Rowan's question earlier on, we've done this over 90 times before. So in terms of recruiting the teams and getting the scientists involved is not new to us. It's actually something we've done over 90 times before. So we've built quite a bit of a learning curve of how to do that. So that hopefully gets you also a bit of comfort that we will be able to manage that. And Gergana, I think you had a second question in terms of the cap table. Now here we go. So every 22 projects are put into a separate legal entity. Has to be like that, because we have to agree a license agreement with the owner of the IP, because obviously these are all technologies that have IP that we need to get access to. And once the fund has done its 22 investments, those are structured as convertible loan investments in the first instance, but with capped valuations, which means upon conversion or after conversion, the fund will most likely have something like anywhere between 40 and 48% of the companies. And I think that is, so there's a lot more to talk about, and we can go into some great level of detail, but maybe we take that offline. But I think that's the key takeaway. And then it's super de-risked, because it's investor ready at that moment in time. It's obviously still not at a patient, but it's in investment ready.
Got it. Thank you very much.
So much, Gergana, for the questions. Carlota, would you like to go ahead?
Sure.
And ask a question?
Yeah, thank you. Super interesting project with fun. I'm not sure if you mentioned like the size of the fund, or how much are you targeting to raise?
The target size of the fund is going to be 12.5 million. And we're going to invest 22 times approximately 150K to do and to finance the first experiment that needs to be done outside the uni lab to validate whatever was done in the uni. So this is the external validation that Milad also referred to really substantiate that the findings from the university scientists are actually true. So those experiments are typically performed by third-party CROs, contract research organizations, that would need to be paid, and that's being done by this investment. The first in vitro one is approximately 150K. Could be 100 or could be 200, but that's the average size. And then ones that pass that threshold, so the ones that are successful, will get another 500K to do the in vivo mice experiment. And that's the real sort of proof that it's starting to work. And then such technology is super de-risked if that one is successful. And that's how you get, if you add that all up, you get to approximately 12.5 million. The fund documentation would allow us to go a bit higher, up to 15 million.
Okay, thank you. Maybe a question more related also like to the market, you know, since you've been in the industry for a while, and we obviously saw kind of a surge in investments in biotech, you know, with COVID, and now we're seeing kind of them dropping again. Kind of what's your vision on how the industry is going to evolve in the coming years?
No, very interesting question, and obviously very relevant one. So I think from our perspective, what we have seen indeed happening towards the end of last year, actually, that was, I think, the peak of what we saw in terms of biotech investments and the public biotech market going up, was an unrealistic one based on a lot, you know, very high valuations and the hype that actually indeed the vaccines created, but also some other companies. So what you see now is levels of valuations going back to pre-COVID, which is actually much more realistic. And that creates an opportunity there because the high valuations actually decreased the M&A activity from big pharma because, you know, they would have need to pay more for these companies. So now that the valuations are going to a more acceptable and reasonable level, you see M&A activity picking up, because at the same time you have still a lot of funds into the life sciences that have raised funds to be deployed, so capital to be deployed, and at the same time big pharma has immensely large amounts of dry powder to buy up companies. So the expectation is that the coming period, actually M&A activity and thus exits and upsides for all investors is going up because of these reasonable valuations coming in again.
Thank you.
Maybe to add to that, Carlota, in terms of the underlying model, how we came up with the return expectation and the money multiple expectation, there's obviously a lot of data in the model, but one of the key assumption is the average exit proceeds that are going to be generated upon the exit. And I want to emphasize we've been on the conservative side there, for example, taking only the median, not the average, which is quite a bit of a difference, in particular in biotech.
Great. Thank you, Ruben. Thank you, Milat, for the answers. So actually, John has interconnection issues, so he's not here right now. And other three advisors asked their questions. Do we have any other questions from audience or from the panel? If so, please feel free to open your microphone and ask the question. Otherwise, from the audience or Milat or Ruben, you can add something more. You can share with us if you want to do that.
Sorry, I actually have a quick question just out of curiosity. Do you, by any chance, have in your pipeline or plan to have in your pipeline, because I saw that you also focus mental health. I was wondering if you are considering or have in your pipeline mushrooms or this kind of treatments that are new and not exactly approved but might be approved. How do you see this kind of treatments? Thank you.
Yeah, very good question. And I think you're referring to the field of psychedelics, which is actually a field that has been very hot and very up-picking in the last, I would say, couple of years. The value that they see in psychedelics as a form of treatment, opposed to being party drugs for that matter, is a very interesting concept. We actually have currently a company that's developing a new drug against psychiatric diseases, not based on psychedelics, but we actually drive on that hype in the mental health disease space, because obviously COVID also underlined the importance of mental health very much so, and are currently actually looking into also psychedelics. So we don't have, to answer your question, we don't have a project or pipeline in that space, but we're very much looking into it and understand that this can be of great value in the future. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Another question? All right. So Milad, Ruben, do you have something to add?
Yeah, no, thank you for the opportunity. Happy to connect. I'm guessing you also received the full investment deck, which is a very elaborate documentation that could provide the information and answers you seek. So yeah, very happy to take this offline and discuss further if you're interested.
Yeah, and I would say let's improve the lives of millions of patients, and not out of charity, but also based on a decent return. But I would add there's huge impact to be made on the back of this.
Absolutely. Great. So I think we can wrap up here. Thank you so much for everyone being here. We had 5 startups: Screevo, Big Blue People, ONEKEY, Urban Data Collective, NLC, Healthtech Venture Builder. Actually, I say startup, but I should have said companies. We had 5 great companies today, and great advisor, Carlota from Plug and Play Tech Center, John from Rockstar, Gargana from 11 Ventures, and Rahan from First Bridge. It was really a pleasure to host all of you here today. And I saw all those companies share their pitch deck and their contact info on the chat. You can directly connect with them to ask a question or to discover investment opportunities to each of them. Also, you can visit our website or LinkedIn page to see the list of pitching startups, and also be proposed to almost all of you.